Similarly to how individuals have different unique blueprints and purpose in this fabric of life, call it a soul journey, call it fate or destiny. Similarly, so do cultures and people. It's not to express inferiority versus superiority, more or less importance. We are all different pieces of a puzzle, and we come together to create this beautiful fabric of life and of divinity. So, with everything I'm about to say, please, if you see anyone trying to distort my words and give them an evil interpretation, know that it's anti-Semitic. It's called the, quote, superior Jew concept. And I ask that you counteract it. Don't let their comment just sit there. If we are light workers only when there's no work to be done, or spiritual warriors only when there's no wars to be fought, are we really any of these things? So thank you for that in advance. Antisemitism, persecution of the Jewish people. Let's go to the beginning. So much of the foundations to our society can be credited to the Jewish people, to the Israelites. And it goes back thousands of years. Whether you're of a specific religion or a belief system, or even an atheist that has nothing to do with spiritual faith of any sort, still, the wisdom of the Jewish people is embedded in your day-to-day life. The 10 Commandments serve as a foundation to our moral system and even our legal system. It's something that everyone have in common when it comes to their perspective of life, or should I say most, across the board, of different belief systems and of simple philosophical moral approach to life that has nothing to do necessarily with God or a God. So to that, we should be able to express basic gratitude and giving credit. We can all acknowledge the importance of the wisdom that was brought to the world by the Jewish people. I will say Jewish, Israelites, Hebrews, I mean the same people when I say these different words. They all reflect the same people. Now, from that place of importance, and I haven't even mentioned the aspect of bringing oneness consciousness to the world and eliminating the concept of man can be a god at the expense of a people, meaning they can't enslave people in the name of allegedly being a god, like we've had before in the ancient cultures, which in and of itself is so much. It's interesting that even though it seems so basic and somewhat even easy to understand the importance of these things and to give not even respect, but just basic acknowledgement, that so many people take the path of divine jealousy. If the Jewish people biblically are credited to be the chosen people, other people, if they come from a place of greed, jealousy, envy, they want to be the chosen people. And that creates a deep level of resentment and jealousy and desire to bring them from, you might want to call it, pedestal, from the way others perceive it from the outside, to bring them down from it and claim the alleged throne. If only they were able to comprehend how dirty is the work of the chosen people, how difficult, painful, and the price that it bears. It sounds very romantic and royal, when in fact, it's the street cleaner. It's the person that goes into the mines and walks in the dark, in the mud, puts themselves at risk and in danger to make sure that the foundations underneath are strong enough to hold everything that sits on top of it. It is that role exactly that has brought so much suffering and loss and pain on the Jewish people. Why are they considered the light bearers instead of looking in and thinking and understanding your role or other people's roles that are just as magnanimous and important, just different? I can imagine many Jewish people tell you, you want to be the chosen people. Take it. It's not as romantic as it sounds. It comes with the obligation to set an example through the toughest situation. It puts you in a place of way higher standards to live up to. Doesn't seem to be fair. Why do most people get away with so many things, but if the Jewish people are any less than beyond perfect, they're hated and blamed, the scapegoat Jew? As long as there is evil in the hearts of mankind, men and women, and this is something that is very painful for me to recognize and say, so don't think I say it with a light heart. But as long as that darkness exists in humanity's hearts, the Jewish people will always be persecuted. Darkness always goes after light first. And notice that historically, the great evils and dictators of the world have always went after the Jewish people first before they were going to go after everyone else, while simultaneously projecting and gaslighting the world and blaming the Jewish people for that which they themselves were doing and attempting to do. Easiest, simplest example, Hitler made a career out of telling people that the Jewish people want to take over the world as he was taking over the world quite literally. Today, it's jihadi radical Islamists that want to enact the caliphate and the Sharia laws onto the world, that claim that it's the Jews that want to take over the world. If you want to know what's in a person or in a culture's heart, see what they say about the Jews, which will be an accurate reflection of themselves, which they project. Some people do it subconsciously in an unaware way. They're not aware of themselves and their own shadows, so they project it on the Jewish people. That's where the term scapegoat Jew comes from. The Jewish people have always been to blame of all the troubles of the world, right? Not really right, I'm being sarcastic, of course. And then there are those who do it quite conscientiously and aware because they know it has worked before and it will work again, unfortunately. Now, what happens is, up until now, historically, every single time the Jewish people have been persecuted by an evil force of some sort, the world took a long time to wake up and stand by them in their defense. The world tends to wake up, and we've seen it in World War II, when it's about to reach at their doorstep, when it's no longer just the Jews that are a victim, but it's now moving to them. So even the times when the world stepped up and helped the Jewish people against their persecution, it wasn't completely altruistic. A lot of it came from, oh wait, I'm now next. It's playing out now as well with the term the West is next, when we see the extremist riots throughout Europe and the US, when people are beginning to realize that it now touches them. And now the world begins to wake up to stand by the Israelites. But once again, it only is doing so when it comes to them and not from the absolute altruistic place of, let's not let this happen again to the Jewish people. The marks, the flags, the red flags have been around for 2 decades. And it only now, when it's so extreme, the world begins to step up, begins. What does it tell us? That unfortunately, we haven't come a long way when it comes to light in our heart. We are still very much so wired to and ruled by a deep level of narcissism, greed, and darkness. And sometimes even pure evil. It depends on the circumstances. We all have light and shadow in our hearts to a certain degree. Sometimes it's very extreme. We will know that the world has truly healed and has risen its frequency from the 3D, from the world of polarity, when the Jewish people are persecuted and the world immediately, unequivocally, steps up and stand beside them in their defense without needing to wait for it to come to them. That is when peace will truly come. That is when we know we have made that meaningful, profound leap to another dimension, a broader one, a higher frequency one. Physically, it will feel like we're still here, but the consciousness will be a lot broader. And it is when finally the Jewish people will no longer be persecuted. Because if darkness comes after light first, and people's hearts are no longer encompassing mostly evil, or even partly evil, or even a little bit of evil, hence they stand up for the Jewish people immediately. That's when we know goodness is prevailing. Even if not completely, mostly. So I guess this video is a message as to how we can tell where we're at in our expansion and in our spiritual progress as humanity. And it's also to say when the Jewish people will finally be free of their persecutions. I don't believe we're closer necessarily when it comes to society outside the Jewish people. And just to be clear, in case I wasn't clear, even the best humans on earth are flawed and make mistakes. So just like individuals that can be amazing and you admire them, they can make mistakes and be flawed, just like cultures and peoples with specific blueprints. When I talk about the Jewish people, it's not to say that every Jewish person is this and that. Some are brilliant, some are dumbasses, just like in any other group of people. But the collective blueprint, the spiritual purpose, is what I'm describing. Individuals can always be apart or be separate from the collective direction. That's what free choice is about, for better or for worse, right? So just to be clear about that in case I wasn't. And I think that's it. If I failed to mention something, that's okay. Thank you for tuning in. Be the change in the world you want to see. Show up for your Jewish friends and communities. Don't wait for it to come to you. Don't be on the defense, be on the offense on this one. It's very important. There's time for offense and there's time for defense. Here, now, we're called to be on the offense, to not let darkness surround us until it's almost too late, until we have to respond, but to meet it where it's at or where it starts with light. So it shrinks. It's a lot easier to light a room with a candle that is a small room than it is a huge venue with one candle, right? Don't wait. Stay magic. Stay true. I love you.